receiver, in my opinion, the authority and title. If Bill doesn't have the answer, I don't know who does. And we also have our state representative, Pete Lucido. When Pete first came to our government affairs meeting, I was so impressed, I went home and told my husband that we need more people like him in government. And I couldn't vote for him, but I did let all my family know on the east side that if he comes up on your ballot, make sure you vote for him. I would also like to announce that, we really are in need of your thoughts and your prayers for one of our loyal directors and past presidents, R.W. Watson. He's battling brain cancer and lung cancer, and he could really use our prayers. We'll have more information about that as time goes by. At this time, I would like to call up Mickey Schuler to do our invocation.
Lord, thank you for this great day and the wonderful weather that we're still having this week. Thank you for all the people that are here and were able to make it. And for those that weren't, I hope that they're all well, and there's just better reasons that they couldn't be here today. Bless us as we go forth from the meeting, that we take a lot from it and take it back to our offices and spread the words that need to be spread. And just bless our careers as we go through the end of this year with full steam ahead and business as usual. In Jesus' name, amen.
At this time, I'd like to stand to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I'd like to introduce our NOCBOR directors, officers, and we have a special guest today. Jake Cunningham, can you stand up? Jake is running for Oakland County Circuit Court Judge. So we have President-elect Ann Peterson. If you could stand when I call your name. Dave Elia, Treasurer. Dave Nisgoda, Secretary. Tom Kotzian, Past President. Dave Botsford. John Devine. Maddie Deshawn. Matt Diskin. Dana Fox. Cheryl Gates-Spears. James Gillian. Jeff Leach. Ray O'Neill. Marcy Supreme. Susie Stemper. Steve Stockton. And R.W. Watson. Committee reports, I'd like to call up Dave Nisgoda.
Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing today? Great. Super. It's a great way to start the day. The sun's shining. We're here. We fought traffic, and everybody got here safe. Great. I'm the chairman of the membership committee, and a couple things just come out your way. We're working on a euchre night over at NOCBOR, so that's coming up real soon. We also have a bus trip to Greektown this year. It's a little bit different venue. Looks like there's a lot of tokens and money on that, and a bus ride too, so if you guys are gamblers, that might be a way to go. Also coming up in early December is our installation luncheon, so that's always a great event. Looks like it'll probably be at Petrosello's again this year. We have valet parking, a wonderful meal, and of course support all your future officers and directors. Thank you very much. Oh, and by the way, the money man here, I was selling tickets along with a lot of our members. When we do have that drawing, it's going to be $188 toward Grace Center of Hope and $188 to our lucky winner. Thank you.
I'm going to call up Tom Kotzian to give you the lowdown on our nominating.
Thank you, Jennifer. Just remember, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Did you hear about the termite that walked into the saloon and said, "Is the bartender here?" Maybe 30 minutes later, I went, "Oh, is the bar tender here?" Where's the book? One of the privileges of being a member of the North Oakland County Board of Realtors is the election of directors and also the committee that helps select those directors. The work behind the scenes is really critical, making sure that we have the best candidates in front of you to help take this association, the second largest in the state of Michigan, to higher levels of performance and proficiency. And guiding us in that task is someone that's been here more than a couple of years, and that's our CEO, our Executive Vice President, Ms. Pat Jacobs, who has taken us, what is it, David, the latest?
50 through 10, I believe.
5,310 members when we started out with only 200. Done a phenomenal job, and we're very, very happy and honored to have Pat helping us in our future growth. Well, the 2018 nominating committee members that helped with our ballot this year and the ballot that we're going to announce soon, who those directors are the following committee that we selected from the annual meeting last year. And they are, would you please stand, David Botsford, Cheryl Carrick, Jeff Leach, Denise Miseris, Mary Reddick, and of course our own R.W. Watson. Thank you for your... We will be selecting 5 new nominating committee members at this meeting so they can help with that selection process for 2019. I only ask the following of those who may either be nominated or nominate themselves. If you're going to serve on the nominating committee, you cannot run for any of the offices you're helping select the candidates for. You have to do something very important. You have to show up. That's critical at the nominating committee meeting. And of course, you must have a 3-year tenure with the North Oakland County Board of Realtors to serve on the committee. At this point, I was just going to make sure we have our candidates announced who are vying for a 3-year term. We will select 4 of them. Most of you, I hope, have voted. If you haven't, you can still vote out in the hall. And will the following candidates please stand? Brenda Davis, Century 21 Town and Country, Royal Oak. Dave Allegay, the principal broker of Brookview Realty and Cheryl Gates Spears, Keller Williams Premier, Clarkston. Ray O'Neill, principal broker from O'Neill Appraisal, Clarkston. Kathy Phillips, Century 21 Town and Country, Royal Oak. More, Steve Stockton, Keller Williams Showcase, Commerce. And with a lot of prayers for recovery, our R.W. Watson, who obviously can't be here today, with Keller Williams. And we have to select one affiliate candidate. That choice will be difficult with all the candidates running. We have one candidate running. And if you're not elected, there's something wrong with this. Where's Deanna Fox from Lake Michigan Coast? Thank you all very much. Jen, would you want to introduce as well? Okay. And coming up to the podium, demonstrating his topic. No, he's not going to demonstrate his topic. That's just a show. A very good close friend and a person that has served our industry for, okay, Bill, how many years? 47 years. Let's hear it for Mr. Phil Seaver from Seaver Title, his topic, cannabis and real estate. Come on up, Phil.
heaviest topic. I'm running 3 to 5 phone calls a week right now from people in different situations wanting to know how to handle certain situations. I think it helps if we go through what the background is and how we got to where we're at right now. First of all, under federal law, marijuana is illegal in any form, medical or recreational. So it doesn't matter what the state law is under the current interpretation. During the Obama administration, the decision was made to not enforce the federal law in any state that had legalized marijuana. So 30 states, there was no federal enforcement of the drug law as it pertains to marijuana. Now that's changed recently, where Jeff Sessions came out and said, we're going to enforce it everywhere, anytime. Well, that has created a lot of chaos in the legal community, the real estate community, the title community, the banking community. Because Sessions also went to the banks and said, if you do any transactions knowingly involving drugs, we will treat that as aiding and abetting, which triggers the RICO statute, which means seizure of assets. So no bank wanted to be facing a seizure of assets situation. So they also turned to the title companies and said, if you do a transaction that knowingly involves marijuana or any other drugs, and put the money through our bank, we will cease doing business with you. That was pretty strong language from the banks. So the title companies, so no title company is going to close a transaction that involves drugs or marijuana. We cannot, there's one underwriter, most of the, that allows it, but most underwriters also prohibit us from insuring any transaction that involves it. So it boils down to kind of a complicated situation when you are involved with a transaction that involves a marijuana sale or grow sale, whatever term you want to use. By the way, cannabis is the term of art. There's no longer marijuana, pot. You only use the word cannabis and you're talking about the sections. Matter of fact, many law firms now have cannabis sections because it is a very difficult licensing procedure in Michigan to become sanctioned to do medical marijuana. Now we have the ballot item coming up, which will, at least if the polls are to be believed, legalize recreational marijuana in the state. Now our legislature had a chance to vote for it and chose not to, which in my personal opinion I think was an error, because now if this passes on the ballot, it would take a 75% approval to change how marijuana is handled in the state. If it had been passed by the legislature, it would have taken a 51% in the future. So basically, it's been taken out of the hands of politicians totally and will be in the hands of bureaucrats as to how marijuana is handled in the state, because it would be very difficult to get a 75% agreement to change things. Okay? Now, other states that have faced the situation, it's kind of interesting. Colorado, I find the most interesting in California. Colorado approved recreational marijuana, as I think you all know, and then they found out they had a problem. They couldn't collect any taxes. As I mentioned, you can't put the money in the bank. So how could they collect the taxes on that which they were counting on? So fortunately enough, they had a statute in place that enabled them to form a state-backed credit union. So they formed a state-backed credit union. And now, any step of the way, when you're in a situation where you apply for any license in Colorado, you have to prove you already opened your account at the state-backed credit union. That is their way of collecting the money. Now, interestingly enough, in California, it's typical fashion said, the banks would deal with Colorado. We're big enough, they'll deal with us. Banks said, no, we won't. And it's still aiding and abetting. California did not have a statute that enabled them to open a state-backed credit union. They will have, I believe, by the end of next week, if I understand correctly. But now they're hiring Brinks trucks to pick up the cash for the taxes and storing it because they can't deposit it anywhere, which is real exciting. Typical California. Yeah. So anyhow, we have that the situation where you can't use banks for the transactions. So if you are involved in a transaction that is really a grow operation, where that's what it's being sold for, it's a very, there's an interesting protocol that you need to follow. My suggestion at least, is that the parties will agree in the attorney's office, wherever, sign the sell papers, buy papers, whichever they need to sign on it. Then the parties will leave to exchange the cash. There is one cardinal rule that you all need to follow if you're involved in any of the grow operations. Do not be in the room with the cash. That's the #1 rule, because you are risking your life at that point. People have been killed for $1 or $2 grand. To give you a scenario, we didn't know it was a grow operation until the attorney called me and said, "How early do you need us to get there so you can complete the count?" Well, just a minute. Let me confirm. This sounds like a cash marijuana trade. Yes, it is. Well, we had to withdraw our commitments, cancel the closing, and they proceeded to they were going to do the closing at the attorney's office. I told them, now make sure you follow the rule. Don't be in the room with the cash. Well, I called them 2 days later, what's going on with it? Yeah, they're closing right next door right now. Okay, where are they going to exchange the money? Oh, they brought it in. I said, are you kidding me? $370,000 in $100 bills in the room next to it. Now that is stupid, okay? At that point, you're not dealing with the legal aspects, you're dealing with the survival aspects. Now, after I did a program for a commercial broker, one of the brokers called me up afterward and said, boy, you were not kidding. This was scary. The buyers arrived at the closing. The buyers had 2 armed guards with them, complete with AKs, complete with body armor, who stood in the hallway, one facing this way, one facing that way, until the seller had the money, and then they left. The seller now had $580,000 in $100 bills that somebody knew he had, and with no bodyguards. So my strong advice to you is, #1 rule, if you're involved in what is a grow sale, do not be in the room with the money. #1 rule. Let the attorneys handle the legal details, but do not be in the room together with that cash. Now, a question I'm asked quite a bit is, as a broker, agent, are you aiding and abetting by being involved with a sale or purchase? And everybody has to talk to their own counsel on it to make that decision. As I mentioned, quite a few law firms have divisions now, cannabis divisions, to deal with this. And it is still a possibility. As I semi-jokingly say, I mean, just don't send a big notice about the contribution you made to Elizabeth Warren or whatever, because it is a total decision to be made more on a political basis of whether you're going to be hit rather than necessarily a legal basis. It's also, interestingly enough, an economic issue. If you are a drug agency, and you're going to raid marijuana production or whatever, you need to find out what you're raiding it for to know how this search needs to be done. In Wayne County hit a group from the east side, got $1.6 million in cash and equipment, and the judge ruled in favor of the owners, said they were totally legally licensed, which they were, and you went in under a state warrant, which is legal under state law. It's only illegal under federal law. In Oakland County, another group was hit in Troy, 1.2 million, but it was a joint operation between the federal and the local, and they went in under the state law, or under the federal law. So they had a legitimate legal basis for hitting the place at that point. Now, when I say it's an economic issue, the locals don't like to bring the feds into these because the feds demand at least 50% of the money for participating. If they could do it, if they're going in after heroin and cocaine, they'll keep it local because they get to keep it all at that point. It's a very significant item towards balancing budgets, as a matter of fact. So when you see that there has been a raid that has occurred, if you see it's a joint federal and local, you know it was marijuana, okay? Because that's the only basis they could go in on is the federal. If you see it was purely local, if they know what they're doing, it would be heroin and cocaine, because that's still illegal under Michigan law, and they get to keep all the money when they go in and don't have the feds involved. It's, so when you read the articles, keep in mind what the basis was for doing this raid. It's not all by law, it's all for economics, and it's not all. There's some economics involved with it also. If you go into a house to list it and you see there's a grow operation, this is where my most common question comes. What do I do? First of all, you have no duty to report someone committing a crime. You are not committing a crime by not reporting someone. So you probably won't sit very well with the seller if you start calling up the police and saying they have a grow operation. But as the agent, don't list it as a business opportunity. This is a sale of a house. That's all it is. Okay? That's all you're doing with the listing. Now, if you walk in with a buyer, and this has happened, I tell you, I don't even tell you how many times, where the buyer's eyes light up when they walk in and see there's a grow operation. And it's, whoa, okay, I think I like this house. And, at that point, you are only running a PA on behalf of the buyer for the house. The buyer and the seller want to talk, that's not with you present, and never, never a mention in the purchase agreement. We are not going to do a bill of sale as part of the closing agreement. And if there is some money that changes hands on that, that's not with you present, and who knows how much money that is. But keep in mind, you are selling real estate or buying real estate. That's the only part that pertains to what you're doing in that situation. If you're in doubt, and well, frankly, it's been some interesting calls, but as I said, I'm running 3 to 5 calls a week right now of I have this situation, what should I do? And it's one of, really, it was a disabled child trust. Mother was unreliable, so there's an outside trustee. Well, no, the house was in the kid's name, the kid's trust name. He's disabled from an auto accident, lots of money to pay for his upkeep. Well, the mother sees the opportunity to start renting out part of the house for a grow operation and collecting the money for herself. The reason it came to light is because the PRE denial. It was one of those crazy ones because she had a business operation going on in the house, so it wasn't just the principal residence. But there's a whole lot of those situations where you actually are dealing with a strange reality. Where, okay, if you have the situation, you know, give your attorney a call, give me a call, whatever. I am an attorney, but I can't represent you formally. But it is, there are lots of situations, but just follow, remember the 2 things. You're buying or selling a house, and that's the only thing that goes in the PA. And if there's going to be a transaction that involves the grow business, don't be next to the cash. And you are endangering yourself at that point. That's more important. There's nothing else you take away from it. Don't be sitting next to the cash. That's dangerous. Yes, Rick?
2 questions. If it's legal to take the cash, how do you get paid a commission? And the second thing is, how does the seller put the money in the bank?
The seller has to be, put it this way, typically in those transactions, the seller has other uses for the cash, but he has to figure out a way to pay taxes. Interestingly enough, the IRS has the setup now where you can go down to their office, make the appointment, you go in with your CPA, you're handed your form to fill out, and you pay your taxes in cash there. That's the only way, because you can't give them a check, because you can't put the money in the bank. But the IRS has dealt with reality now, and you could set up the meetings to give them the cash for your tax payment. Now, as an agent collecting the commission, ideally speaking, you're going to get a money order for it or something. If not, you got to make your decision. How are you going to collect it? You got to have that conversation early with the seller in that situation. As one recent transaction for a legal medical marijuana dispensary, it was a $1.8 million sale. And the agent was ecstatic to find out that he wasn't going to be bringing back a suitcase with $100,000 in $100 bills. He ended up actually getting a series of money orders for that. But they did get the money in at that point. So it is one of those, how do you handle getting paid? And you need to talk to the seller early on it. I mean, you don't want to be at the meat to take your cut, okay, at that point. Then you are sitting next to the money at that point. Any other questions on it? Yes?
Sessions contacted the pharmaceutical companies a few weeks before he made that announcement and told them that synthetic marijuana was not within the confines of his enforcement order. Is that still what he thinks?
Okay, this is all the question of definitions. What is synthetic? And my understanding is nothing that it's made and then labeled as marijuana is synthetic as far as the guns are concerned. They seize your assets and you got to prove it's synthetic. Okay. Now, this is an aside. It's been kind of interesting. Two of the groups that are really out there supporting the legalization are American Legion and VFW, because of the tremendous effect that medical marijuana has had for PTSD. And also, interestingly enough, with all of the problems that we've had with the seizures from the inoculations, which I think there were 47,000 kids who were affected by the inoculations last year, the medical marijuana has had a phenomenal effect on calming them down. I have a personal experience in that my niece died from the inoculation, the reaction to it, and died in the bathtub when she had a seizure and drowned. So it's something I'm pretty familiar with, and it has been amazingly helpful with those children that are having. So marijuana in a recreational form is a lot different than in the medical form, but the medical, Parkinson's is the other place that they're having some significant success. I have a friend who takes one dose the first of the month, and that's what he needs to take is all that. And it's amazing, as he put it, he can golf, he can bowl again. Okay? Two things he was totally unable to do. Hey, there's some good coming out of this too. Yeah. Yep. Okay, good. Okay, how often? Every day, okay. Yeah.
Bill, would you address the landlord-tenant issue with the marijuana?
Sure. I'll give you a scenario. I mentioned the raid in Troy. That wouldn't happen. The feds, when they came in, they had 16 grow areas inside this warehouse. But when they came in, they smashed down the door. The owner said, we'll open up these grow areas for you. No, we don't need a key, and proceeded to smash it. So they smashed the walls and do maximum damage. Landlord was getting a significant amount of rent. Now, he was faced, I'll put on both sides. Landlord faced the question, was he aiding and abetting? So he had not considered that before, that he was aiding and abetting by providing the space that they were renting. Secondly, after the raid, is he entitled to continue to get rent from them when it's a quote-unquote illegal operation that he is sanctioned? Is he entitled to it? These are some delicate questions that leases need to be written carefully on. If you know that your client is going to be involved with this, you need to write all kinds of indemnity language in it, but that does not necessarily protect you. It only protects you if the person you're renting to has enough money to cover your losses. So keep that in mind. Indemnity clauses are nice, but only if the person that's giving you that guarantee has the money to cover you. If this is their startup operation, I wouldn't be real comfortable with that indemnity language at that point. But as a tenant in that situation, you probably are still obligated to pay rent, because there is not if you knew what the operation was you were putting in. You can't argue it was an unforeseen circumstance that caused you to be unable to use the space that you were renting. So therefore, you probably owe the balance of the lease payments to the landlord at that point. Now, the landlord obviously cannot go out and get a loan if that's the primary usage of the property. If you are considering building the warehouse and then leasing it to somebody, make sure the mortgage is totally closed and fully dispersed before you do anything on it, and make sure there's not a default language in your mortgage that says the loan is in default if it is used for an illegal operation. One of two things: either the rate goes up by 4 points or it's grounds for foreclosure. So the lender, don't put the lender in a position at that point where they have that much control over you. Or as a lender, they don't want to be in that position where they have loan for a grow operation.
Medical marijuana, they have to be licensed to grow that in Michigan?
Yes.
Okay, and can they grow it in their home, or do they have to have a public place?
You can grow it in their homes. There's a certain number of plants that they can do.
And if you vote no on recreational...
No, this is strictly for recreational. Medical is already approved.
Yeah, but if you vote no on recreational marijuana, it won't affect medical marijuana.
Correct.
How is it handled when there are foreclosures like you mentioned, if there's no legal bankruptcy provisions or protections for clients, if that's not going to be recognized in federal court, how is it handled with commercial
I'm sorry,
properties?
could you restate the question?
If the lender is foreclosing on a commercial residential property and the feds don't recognize bankruptcy provisions, protections, what happens to those?
The question is, if you have a foreclosure and the feds don't recognize in bankruptcy court, if you're doing an illegal act, that you usually can't get away from it by filing bankruptcy. It's like, just as an interesting little aside to it, but the recent phenomenon, remember the liar loans where you could get a mortgage by saying, yep, I make 200 grand a year, give me that mortgage? Well, when they file bankruptcy, the debts created by fraud are not discharged by bankruptcy. And the liar loan people filing bankruptcy are finding that they can be attached for up to 38% of the mortgage typically right now. And they are being attached.
Real quick there, Phil. As a landlord, what liability do I have if the tenant moves in, everything's good, and I don't know, a couple months later, somehow I find out that they're growing, medically, let's say the correct way with a license and a whole bit. It already says in their lease, let's say no dogs, no trampolines, and next thing you know, you get a pot growing in your house. I mean, do I have any authority to say get the heck out, or do I gotta allow it, or what do we do there?
Well, it's touchy if you don't have a no-grow clause in your lease. Okay, if you have a no-grow clause, then for sure you can evict. If you have a no-grow clause, or excuse me, if you do not, and it is a legal thing that they are doing, which is medical marijuana pursuant to the right number of plants, all that, you probably cannot evict because your eviction action would be in state court. And in state court, it would be legal if they're licensed. Thank you all.
So get with you after this meeting, but at this time I'd like to introduce Pete Lucido to go over the Michigan ballot proposals.
Representative Peter Lucido was first elected to serve the 36th district in November of 2014. Pete Lucido is now running for the Senate in Michigan from the 8th district. This district covers all of the following: St. Clair Shores, Mount Clemens, Utica, Grosse Pointe, New Haven, Romeo, Harrison Township, Shelby, Bruce, Chesterfield, Lenox, Ray, and Washington Townships. Pete Lucido has served as Vice Chair of the House Law and Justice Committee, as well as a member of Tax Policy, Transportation and Infrastructure, and Financial Liability Reform Committees. He earned his bachelor's degree in Public Administration and Business from Oakland University, his master's in Business from Central Michigan University, and actually was a classmate of mine, receiving his Juris Doctorate from the Detroit College of Law, now known as Comerica Park. So we had to move to law school to Michigan State. That's a trivia question. How can you be an alumni of a school you never attended? The answer, have yours torn down and moved somewhere else. Pete Lucido was the founder and president and managing partner of one of Macomb County's largest law firms, and is a licensed attorney, one of the few in state government, in the House or Senate, an insurance agent, and a former security register representative. However, we have a very important title that he holds for the realtor community and private property rights. Pete Lucido is a realtor.
Yay.
Pete and his wife are celebrating their silver anniversary. They have 3 children. He's endorsed by Candace Miller, State Senator Jack Brandenburg, U.S. Congressman Paul Mitchell, and we have a friend in the Senate if we get Pete Lucido in there in November. Let's hear it for Pete Lucido.
Thanks again, Tom, for that kind introduction. You owe it to me. Jen, thank you for having me, Pat, and everybody else. I had a chance to come and visit before, but this is unique, following up with Phil. Phil, you had the interesting topic, believe me, pot versus what I gotta say. You know what? There was a total of 6 ballot initiatives, if you guys recall. The legislature pretty much parted with a few of them, dealing with the minimum wage and whether we take that up in lame duck. Also, raising the state minimum wage, the prevailing wage issue, and the paid sick leave. Those things we don't need to discuss because they're either going to get taken up in lame duck or they're just going to get ditched until something else happens. A lot of times these ballot proposals come around because they're constitutionally impacted. As Phil has indicated earlier, we have a federal law that says marijuana is against the law. Yet the state legislature in a lot of different states, 6 to be exact today, is taking up this issue about recreational marijuana. How can a state law supersede a federal law? We were learning something different in law school. The irony is you're putting clients at risk, and I got to tell this story, and I hope that you'll enjoy it because I thought it was comical. We have a state bar that oversees our license, and what ended up happening was I put a speakerphone on with 2 clients in the room that wanted to do a transaction regarding marijuana. As a result, I called the state bar ethics hotline. I said, "Hi, I'm Pete Lucido, 41237, that's my P number. And I have a question, so I need the best person that you have in the office to give me a direction on this." And I said, "I have 2 clients sitting here right now. They want to do a transaction dealing with marijuana. I want to know, as a lawyer, number 1, I don't want to lose my ticket, my license." Now, something that I worked very hard for, and all the lawyers in the room, you know what I'm talking about. I don't want to be involved with structuring. I don't want to be involved with, money laundering, racketeering, anything to do with those kind of things. So I need your direction on this. If I give any legal advice, will I be guilty or will I be subject to sanctions with my license? Number 2, if I tell them how to hide the money, would I be in trouble with the law or would I be in trouble with you, the state bar? And number 3, if I'm drafting documents, am I conspiring to commit a felony under federal law? I think her name was Marlene. Marlene says, "I don't want to answer any of those questions." I said, "What the hell is going on here? You guys are supposed to give me direction. I'm asking you because I don't want to get pinched." And guess what? Nobody knew at the state bar. We have a cannabis section. And it has grown, no pun intended, to the largest section of the state bar of Michigan now. It's unreal. Because the lawyers that are getting into this business know that there's going to be a payoff, and he who takes the initiative or the risk may end up doing real well. Yet our silk stocking law firms throughout the state aren't in on this business. There's money being planted again, no pun intended, all over the state. And I just heard this morning on the news, Lake Orion could be the mega metropolis of pot. Kind of a mega mall of pot, huh? Really great destination from out of state. I don't know, but you know what? I do know this. Before I got there in the legislature, they've already legalized medical marijuana. I've taken a huge amount of testimony in judiciary where I first sat my first year. Mothers with their children that had seizures, epilepsy, things of that nature where they were rubbing the oils on the gums of the child, and the child just stopped seizing right in committee. I listened to doctors, I listened to holistic medicine people. I mean, everybody's got their own quirk about how to fix things. Stuff's working, and doctors are out there writing scripts because you're not going to get it without it. The state's not really keen on this. I want you to think about this, Phil, on the way out of here. I go there with my client, I drop a bag of $45,000. And we all know it's illegal to put the money in the bank because the banks know that they were already told by Jeff Sessions, it's a no-no, we'll go after you. Credit union's the same thing. I put a bill in to form a state bank like Colorado has so that the state who regulates the medical, not recreational, that's coming up, medical marijuana license eventually can take the money and cycle it through and do what it needs to do, right? State bank, within the confines of the state. What happens when I give that money to Treasury to pay my taxes with my client? What the hell do they do with that money? I mean, you talk about a heist, that would be the big one right there at the Capitol, huh? Well, stay tuned because I'm sure our next treasurer will have the, because our one's leaving, he's already told me he's going with the governor. He is, he's going to have to explain what he did with all that money someday, so I'd like to see it myself. 2 ballot proposals. On the way in, you should have received this from Pat. Everybody got it? Okay. The only thing I'm talking about, because Phil, proposal 1 deals with the pot. And if you like it, great. If you think it's going to backfill a lot of the debt that the state has, I sure hope so, but the unintended consequences is what you didn't touch on, and I want to say this. Colorado has had a lot of testimony over the years about zoning requirements, et cetera, et cetera. In addition, there's going to be unintended consequences is how high is too high to drive. I brought a bill that says how many nanograms is too high to drive. If I have 2 Mickey's malt and a blunt, will I be too high to drive? Will the THC in my system and the 2 beers take me to a level that's beyond, what it is under the law? Remember, ladies and gentlemen, we took in federal highway dollars, millions of dollars, to bring the level from 0.10 down to 0.08, or we would have never got the money in the state. I don't know if you knew that, but that was not a magical, mystical number. The bars were pissed. The liquor stores were pissed. And the reality is, did we do something because the Highway Transportation and the Federal Bureau said, do what we're telling you to do or you're not getting the state's going to get the money. That's exactly what happened. So I don't know if that's good or bad, but I do know this. I talked to toxicologists and pharmacologists alike. I said, we need a standard before people start getting killed out there. And somebody said, well, drugs never killed anybody. Marijuana's never killed anybody. The people taking them do, though, I guess. Let's talk about proposal 2 for a moment. The last time we did this, I had somebody read the proposal, but I guess I'll do both of them. It's a constitutional amendment the way I look at it. For years, the legislature has whoever's been in power, and that would mean the party with the most members, they call that the majority. That's what it is. So let's assume that there's 2 aisles here. Last place it was just 1, but we'll use this aisle. The Democrats sit on one side of the aisle, the Republicans sit on the other, and there's a rostrum up here, and somebody sits on a big box up here. That rostrum is controlled by the Republicans in both the House and the Senate. There is 63 Republican House members and 47 Democratic members. So it's a majority. In the Senate, there's 38 senators. It's an overwhelming, it's called a supermajority. During the census, which the federal government gives us, people move around. I mean, some people here have moved from Macomb County to Oakland and moved further north or whatever. The neighborhoods have populated. So there's a census done every 10 years. And then during the 10 years, they look at how many in the district you serve. So I'm one of 110 House members, soon to be one of 38 Senate members. My district has changed exponentially by people moving north. I represent the north end of Macomb County currently. When you're talking about Bruce Township, it's the most northern part of the county. Romeo, Washington, Shelby. These are townships or village of Romeo that are populated massively, people moving from the south up to the north. So therefore, if I go beyond 90,000 that I have to represent, because the state has over 10,400,000, when you got 110 House of Representatives, they have about 90,000 customers that they service. Everybody got it? So the census is now being able to look at, did Lucido's district go to 110,000? If so, we got to move the boundary line, and they do it every 10 years. Well, the ballot proposal says we don't want the in-charge party to do this. That's what it says. We want to have a redistricting done so there's no gerrymandering. Who is Jerry and what is he mandering? Tom, did you learn that in law school, Jerry and Mandarin? All right, well, at any rate, what happens in that situation is we're going to have the Secretary of State, whoever that may be, go ahead and appoint some people by way of partisan politics and nonpartisan politics to go ahead and redistrict, which will also take into consideration the congressional district. I want you to imagine this for a moment. These are people that have no experience, no skill, no knowledge to come in and do something that's been done under Constitution for the last couple hundred years, let's say. I'm kind of concerned because guess what? What happens if it doesn't work? Better yet, what happens if they don't get it done in time? Or there's no guidelines set up under the way the proposal's written. But the signatures were there, the Board of Canvassers validated the language and let it go through. And it's on the ballot, proposal 2. There's propaganda going around all over the place that says no to proposal 2, it's toxic. I don't know if you've seen this in the mailboxes. Because they've got special interest groups and organizations that say that we got together. They always call themselves these really, really neat names, you know what I mean? In this one here, it's an effort to change how the state and the federal legislative boundaries are drawn in Michigan, a process known as redistricting. Currently, whichever party is in control does the redistricting, and the census is looked at every 10 years, just like I talked about. Michigan is considered one of the most gerrymandered or unfairly drawn states in the nation. In 2011 is when, or 2010 is when this all began, so we're ready to do this again in 2020 or 2021. We're going to have to do it. That's the 10-year window. Who's behind it? Voters, not politicians. And they said that, you know, they didn't raise any money, but they're up to $1.5 million during this election cycle to go ahead and get this pushed through. I don't know if it's good. I know when the Democrats held the gavel, they call it, in the House and in the Senate, they had a chance to do the districts too. So both parties under the Constitution have a right to do this. The oppositions are saying that, you know, again, are we leaving it now where we're making out carve-outs in the Constitution? I don't know. I think that there was a document that was drawn up a long time ago. We've been following it for years. The party in charge does the districting. They don't do it. I wouldn't know where to begin. These maps are cut out funky. Really, really weird. And I don't know if it's because we know if they're a Democrat or we don't know if they're a Republican, but they have to serve 90,000 people in the House. 90 times 110 comes over 110 million, right? The math. And in the Senate, you got about 240 for each senator. So now the congressional district gets even really weird because it's over 1 million people. So I want you to remember, this isn't my efforts. The supporters of this, I'll tell you who the opponents are first of all. Citizens Protecting the Michigan Constitution, the Supreme Court, and also the Michigan Chamber of Commerce. Is there a motive to keep doing what we're doing? I always hear it's unfair. I always hear that they cut it up, to give each party an advantage. So why not get rid of the parties so nobody has an advantage? You like that idea, anybody? Yeah. Nobody wants to admit it, but you know what? The parties are driving the legislation. The people should represent people that they go to serve for. So, why don't I stop there? I'll take some questions, but the ballot proposal is right in front of you. I can tell you this. My personal feeling on the issue is this. We've been doing something for a long time. If it doesn't work, can we make some amendments that will fix the problem? Do we get an outside agency? Oh, and that other thing too, that always happens in government. Let's do what's called a financial assessment. How much is this going to cost us? And at the end of the day, are we going to be any better off? And what other states are doing this? These are questions that I wanted to ask, but this doesn't come up in a committee. You know why? Because it's a ballot proposal. And why? Because you got to change the Constitution. And this is the legal way to do it. If the ballot gets certified, which it did, it goes to the people. And who better than the people decide what's best for them? At any rate, I'll take some questions on it. It's pretty straightforward. Go right ahead.
So your opinion is that the gerrymandering that they say goes on, and you agree it goes on, it's not a big deal. It's not negative.
First of all, I never agreed that there's gerrymandering because I've got no tangible evidence that says that there's gerrymandering. It is what the argument is around the aisle. The argument on the Democratic side of 47 versus 63 on the Republican is, you guys made this unfair. I wasn't even there. I looked at him and said, excuse me, I don't even own a pencil that even put this to paper on what the heck happened up here. I didn't get there till after it was done. Number two, if everybody's moving north into my district from the south, what do you think I got moving into my district? Right. Most of the time, the Democrats are living in the south end of Warren, and they're coming north. And that's Macomb County. So I don't know how it is out here in Oakland, but I do know Macomb pretty well. I've lived there all my life. Homegrown in Macomb. So, and as a result, I really don't know what the answer is, if it's the best thing. I don't know if this thing with the Secretary of State, whoever then is the party in charge of the Secretary of State's office, is going to do it properly. We have nothing to gauge this as a voter. Watch this. Are they doing this in California? Yes. Has it worked? I don't know. To tell you the truth, I don't even want to guess. Yes, sir.
The question, Mr. Lucido, Michigan doesn't require party registration when you go to vote.
We're going to get there. That's
okay. I'm just saying. So how can anybody, the Secretary of State, say, okay, here's 4 Democrats and I pick you, and here's 4 Republicans, I pick you, and by the way, I need 4 people or 5 people that don't give a shit, whatever, about what's going on.
You're in the, you know what? You're in my wheelhouse right now.
Independent. It's like,
you're in my wheelhouse.
This political climate and everything going on in Washington, who is independent? Sorry, who's truly not on one side or the other? And how can this even, I know it's out there, but I can't see how this would be good for Michigan.
Well, you know what, and to your point, if that's it, then we should be getting a Republican ballot and a Democratic ballot. And they don't do that either, do they? They don't. You have a right to get in the ballot box and choose during a general election and cross the aisle. But you're not allowed to in a primary. And that never made a darn bit of sense to me because I can't vote independently the way God told me to vote, which is vote for the person, not the party. You won't find this, and I know Jen knows it, you won't find this coming out of most people's mouths that are in government. And here's the reason why. They're afraid to face the consequences of what they say. So here's what I believe. I believe that there should be no parties. I believe that the government should serve people. And I also believe this, and just because it's election season, special interest groups are not allowed to give money to any candidate for any reason whatsoever. It's sad when you see somebody like a guy like me that went up there with no special interest group, my own money, and my friends that wanted to help me, and then you look across the aisle or you look in your own party and find they're bankrolled and beholden to the people that gave them the money. That's why we have the problems that we do. On top of it, I truly believe shut the aisle, right? Once and for all. Everybody talk and let's get it done for the people. You saw what just happened. It's an argument about something that really is not serving the people, and they blame each other, but we're the ones that suffer. We pay for the nonsense. Let's go back to the ballot proposals. Anybody else on the gerrymandering?
Please.
Right there.
You told us to oppose the proposal. Who
Oh,
supported?
I'm voting no. See, everybody said, Cito, how are you voting?
I'm voting no.
I look at this and they said heavily funded by political leftists. Well, I don't care who they are, okay? It is. The money came in to do something. I don't know if it's going to be honest. When the people that are put in power to do the districting, it's going to make any difference. So know what we have right now, too. How much is this going to cost? It doesn't say. I want to know when I go to the store how much am I buying this car for before I wheel it out of there and say, hey, I can't afford it. 3, if all these interest groups are pushing this, it's telling me that they got a better agenda than I got, which is service. Due to judicial activism, it's unconstitutional. I wonder if it is. I wonder if that challenge is going to be brought up and we're going to be in court after all this. Here's the reason why the Constitution says every 10 years we look at the census and we redistrict it according to where the people live. It doesn't say the party in charge. So there's some issues both ways. However, it was a 4-3 decision in the Michigan Supreme Court to go forward and keep it on the ballot. So it was a preliminary argument that the Supreme Court said no, and it was that close. So I wonder if there's going to be a federal appeal afterwards. Who knows? And if it doesn't work, guys, what are we going back to? Right, crickets. Let's talk about anybody else. I mean, we'll beat this thing in the ground. Anybody? Yes, sir.
Well, I mean, basically, I learned about gerrymandering in high school. It's been, everybody's known about it, whether they paid attention or not. There's nothing new. I don't know why it gets the press it gets now, except, unfortunately, whoever's in power is going to have the dominant force. So the guys who are in charge right now have no interest in changing it, and they're going to try everything they can do to fight it tooth and nail and not make it a level playing field, because they have their own vested interest. You can say, hey, we've got 74 versus 38. Well, I don't know what the count is. But the fact is this business of, it should be more fair, in my opinion. We can get into philosophical opinions and decisions and, all of that, but basically, I'm pretty much along the lines of what a democracy is supposed to be, which is fair representation based on the majority of the population.
So,
and when you do, that shifts, right? It's going to shift however many years. But when it's the fault of the people who don't vote in the years just preceding a census. That's what it's all about. If people get off their butts and they go and vote, and it doesn't matter which party is the one that wins in the end. But the problem is so few people vote at the time prior to a census. But what ends up happening is somebody's got the power for 10 years. And what happens, the reason why a ballot proposal comes up like this is it's because people are underrepresented. You can look at polls. I don't care whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. The fact is the majority of people happen to be more liberal at the moment in this state, and they're not getting represented that way. Now, it's going to shift. Like I said, every couple of years, the pendulum swings in either, sorry about that. That's,
Saved by the bell.
But the pendulum is in either direction, right? And so 5 years from now, or 2 years from now, those percentages could be different.
And respectfully, we have elections every 2 years for the State House of Representatives and the representatives in Washington, 4 years for State Senate, and our presidential election. If the people care that much, it is not about gerrymandering, it's about people. And to your point, get out and vote, because that's
I
what's
think
valued.
exactly, and I don't care how many people vote.
All right, make it easier to vote. Right on that topic, we're dovetailing into it. I'll stick around afterwards if you have some more issues on Prop 2, but Prop 3 moving rapidly along. The proposal to enshrine straight ticket voting. So right now, recently, the House of Representatives and the Senate voted out straight ticket voting. They believed through the vote that independence about who you choose is better than going and just picking a party. I would like to say that if you don't know your candidate and you're just throwing down a Democrat or a Republican vote, think about what you're doing. If you don't know the party, then you really don't know the representation you're going to get. We check out cars, and I'm going to use cars because that's our main motivating force here in the state. We sell a lot of cars. I check out the options, I check out the crash worthiness, I check out, is this going to give me good gas and everything. We check out cars more than we do the people that are going to serve us that we spend the money on. I want you to really pay attention to this. You have a right, a constitutional right to flip over and vote Democratic or Republican, independent, in the general election. That's a big right. I just don't want somebody to mark a box because some special interest groups told them to. I truly believe that that ballot proposal as to 3 is good till it gets to that part of the issue. Bringing it back to straight ticket voting, it said it'll unclog the lines. Let me get to where I'm going. It'll be less help because we won't need to have people telling people how they can vote. But the other part of the proposal is excellent. I don't need to give a reason that I want an absentee ballot. It's my legal right. They made absentee available. I don't care if I'm not 65. If I'm going to be unavailable and out of the state, I can do it 1 year, but if I'm going to be in the state, I can't. People lie on those applications under penalty of perjury. I'm not going to be available. If they don't want to wait in line, they should have that right. God, I just found out about Kroger's. You can go online, go to your groceries, pull up, like, I mean, come on. Everything is getting to be a convenience. But there's a part of the proposal that says that that same day I register, I'm allowed to vote. A little touchy on that one. I might be seeing somebody vote in 5 different districts. That could get scary. So the vetting out portion is, you go show your driver's license, you sign an absentee ballot that you wanted, an application. We're getting to do that online. That already passed the House. I don't have any problem with that. You go online. My name is Pete Placido. I live at 1313 Mockingbird Lane. Does anybody remember that from the bus station? And I would like an absentee ballot. I voted in multiple elections. They can see it. They can see my signature when I sign. As long as I've done that, why not give me a ballot? Let me vote when I want to, and be done with it. So that proposal, up to a couple different distinctions, I think the people are ripe for it. Go online, register, go to the clerk's office, get your absentee ballot, sign away, and you're done. And you don't have to wait in line, you don't have to worry about it raining, you can do it at your convenience. But the way this proposal is written, it'll allow somebody to register and vote on the same day. I'm a little leery about it. There's some issues. And then the other part of it is this. If I'm going to go do this, how much savings is going to happen to us, the taxpayers? What are we going to do with the money? Because you're talking about hundreds of thousands of people that will register to get this done, like you're seeing now. I only wish that this no reason absentee was in play this election cycle. It's not. We got to vote on it, they'll get into law prospectively, because nothing can go retroactively constitutionally. So, I mean, this is a pretty interesting proposal. I just wish this proposal went before a committee. I just wish this proposal would have been vetted out that says, let's just not do it the same day. Let's give it a week so that, you know, somebody in between can verify all these obstacles. Give you a good example. Anybody move within the election cycle? Anybody? Great. So all of a sudden, I'm living in Shelby Township, and I just now moved to Bruce Township. The clerk has got me registered in Shelby, but now I live in Bruce. If I didn't change my license, I have to do that to get a ballot, right? Right. Can I do that all the same day? Yeah, but the computers may not pick it up. And there's where the dilemma lies. And I'd asked the Secretary of State, Auntie Ruth Johnson, hey, what about this, girl? She said, no, you're right. We're not going to be able to. This information is downloaded every 24 hours. You're not going to see it until the next day. And by then, if we've got a bunch of different people voting in different locations 3 and 4 times, do we redo the election if the votes are close? Or do we go ahead and let it lie the way it is with the fraud? Elections are sacred, and more importantly, they're the voice of the people. So if you're going to vote, don't do it as often as you think you might want to. Just do it once. Any questions on that ballot proposal? Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
this ballot was written, it was done obviously by petition. Was it some special interest group that wanted to put all 3 different options on here? It seems like the smorgasbord of different issues, like you said, it should have went to committee, should have been somewhere. How did it get to the point where there are 3 different yes, no's on one proposal?
The opposition group, Protect My Vote, was created August 23rd. Wasn't that long ago. It listed as a treasurer Mary Doster, the wife of Okemos elections law attorney Eric Doster, and also campaign treasurer, Republican-backed Supreme Court justices. The group has not yet had to file a campaign finance report, so we don't know how much money was involved to push this ball down the field. Before November 6th election, October 26th, so we're going to see where their money came from and everything else. So the funding's really not clear. I can tell you this much. Who's behind it? Supporters are the ACLU, the League of Women Voters, the League of Public Policy, and the NAACP State Conference. It also has the support of Mike Duggan, Grand Rapids Mayor Rosalind Bliss, and Detroit Regional Chamber. You'd think if this was so great, every organization in the state would say, let's do this. But you don't have that. You never will have parity on every issue. I've had some bills that came up on civil asset forfeiture, as you've indicated already, that dealt with the ACLU and the Mackinac Center. So you got a huge conservative group and a huge population of liberal, and you're saying they both agree on it. Must be good law, because here's why. It actually serves the people. When things are taken, you don't sell it off until there's been a conviction. That's real simple in my book, because no conviction, you don't lose your property rights. So this proposal, whether you like it or not, there's great pieces of it, and I wish they would have taken it to the committee and said, how do you feel about a week in between, just to verify if somebody's moved to another district, they have the right to vote, and they can get their absentee ballot. It would have taken a tweak. I just don't understand it, why they rushed this one and didn't look at that. I don't like the same day. I think that's ridiculous. You're going to cause confusions at the clerk's office. Because I could actually go to Shelby and get a ballot, knowing my driver's license, then go change my driver's license, show that I got the paperwork, and go to Bruce and vote again. Who's going to see that? And that's why sometimes, there's only going to be one lawyer in the Senate, me. Interesting. One lawyer. And how many in the House? There'll be 4. You understand that some of these questions that have to come out, just like a realtor in some of these reg reforms or judiciary, hey, this isn't how our profession works. Well, it takes sometimes somebody with knowledge, background, and spirit to bring the issue to the committee so the committee individuals can think, hey, you know what, there's some validity to what he's saying. This could really happen. And how many times have we let it happen before we say, the whole voting system's a sham, and that's pretty much the most sacred ground we have to walk on right now. Because if our voices are not heard, why do you go to the polls? Just saying, as my kids say. Any other questions on that particular ballot initiative, Proposal 3?
A quick question on the straight ticket thing. If this thing does get turned down and the law stays as status quo and we can cross the lines, does that include the primary or is the primary separate?
Great question. Thanks. If we came to committee, I would have loved to have heard the proponents for straight ticket, why they feel so compelled. Because the only arguments we heard in the House, because I wasn't in the Senate, so I only listened to the House arguments, was that it's going to be longer lines and you're going to oppress the more financially repressed people. And I said, but if we give them an absentee a week or two before, meaning, or a month before, there's not going to be those lines. Would you agree? Yeah. So we put that in there, and that's why it passed the House and the Senate. And now that you can't vote straight ticket this time around, in November 6th, Tuesday, you're going to have to pick each and every one of those little circles. You just can't go in and say, on top, and see ya. So I want everybody to realize that, because the ballot's going to probably get spit out saying you didn't vote. I don't know how they do the machines. That's going to be interesting. I haven't talked to the clerks yet. But that being said, right now they want to reinstate straight ticket voting. We wouldn't need it if I could go register online, get a ballot from my clerk when I show my license, and vote and leave. We wouldn't have this problem. And let's talk about the cost savings. Where's that money going to go to? Because I'm always watching where the dollars are going. If you're going to say we need more money in the voting portion of the program, maybe we can buy some new equipment that's been breaking down and taking for hours after the election closes to get the results.
But does it include the primary also?
The primary you cannot cross constitutionally, and why they did
That's
this,
what I'm asking.
okay? You know, it's interesting. We want the best candidate in the Democratic and the Republican primary vetted out, so we want the best people to go forward in the general. Yeah. That doesn't sound right. It's not the best person for the people, though. That's the interesting argument. So you still got to vote within the lane of your party. You can't cross over or you spoil your ballot. Questions, comments, queries, concerns? I can't see. These lights are in your eyes.
Over here.
Somebody's over there.
Just, yes.
Okay, so the proposal is to require straight ticket or permit it?
It is a proposal to enshrine, which means keep, straight ticket voting.
But you wouldn't have to vote straight ticket, right?
You can't vote straight ticket in this election coming up.
Right, but the proposal wouldn't require straight ticket.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
And doesn't it say it allows it?
No. It enshrines it, which means it
No, it says
entombs
this
it, which means
proposed
it's permanent.
constitutional amendment would allow.
You don't have to vote straight ticket. It
Right,
lets you
that's
if
what
you
I'm
want to.
clarifying.
Yeah, so if this ballot initiative passes, we're going back to straight ticket.
We're permitting, but you never, in the primary, you have to.
I understand your question now. Yes, you can still jump in a general,
Right.
but it'll bring back the right to vote straight ticket.
Thank you.
Yes, very clear then. Question? Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
I do have a question as far as people running for candidates right now, and why no one even advertises what party they're running for. They give a name, but there's nobody saying, I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat. It's not any of their marketing material. And then when this comes up and people want to vote for a Democrat or Republican, unless they really do their homework, they don't know. Even in parades, there's big banners everywhere, but they're not advertising that they're running on the Republican ticket.
That is the most interesting question, and I could spend a day with you on it, but I'm going to try to be brief. Before judges get to be judges, they are party affiliated. I can tell you each one of the ones on the Macomb County Circuit Bench, as well as the Michigan Supreme Court, what party affiliation they were with. It's no secret. But all of a sudden, they magically have a wand and a cape that says, or maybe a gavel and a cape that says, now I'm nonpartisan. Isn't that amazing? Poof! And they're in the dust already. Now I'm unbiased. I am not party affiliated. I didn't come out to be 4-3. Interesting enough, you're right about why not putting the party affiliation in general, and here's the reason why. You may offend the day they get the postcard in the mail, that individual, if they are a Democrat or they are a Republican and they see an elephant or a donkey. I submit to you, if you got rid of the parties, it wouldn't make a darn bit of difference. It would be, who is Pete Lucido and what does he stand for?
Here.
Now, any other questions? Anybody? Okay, I had some cards on the way out. If you have some follow-up, it has a cell phone number on it. It's next to the t-shirt. Pat, you still sleeping with my t-shirt?
Yeah.
Thank you. We do appreciate you, Pat. So if you need to take a card, there's my cell phone on. If you have any questions as this goes on, it's been a pleasure being here, and I appreciate you all.
And the results have been tallied.
Was it a free ticket?
No free tickets, no party affiliations whatsoever. So we are the realtor, the R, the blue R. So Brenda Davis is a new director. Cheryl Gates Beers. Sienna won. Now I have the drawing for Grace Centers of Hope. I'm sorry, you're not talking loud enough. Brenda Davis, Dave Elliott, Cheryl Gates Beers, and Ray O'Neill. In a moment. So we have our drawing for the 50-50 raffle for Grace Centers of Hope, and the winning ticket, if you all want to get your ticket out, is 344952. Congratulations. So see Pat. We also drew for the fuel cards, and one of the fuel cards was won by E. Patricia Shields. Congratulations. And Tony Sahulian?
Solmai.
Solmai. Congratulations. Are you here?
I am.
Yay. All right. So now I'm going to call, congratulations. Now I'm going to call up Tom Kotzian to elect the nominating committee for next year.
We need 5 candidates, and I'm going to ask your indulgence. If we have more than 5, we will have a ballot, we will have to vote, and they will go out in the hall, and we'll have to wait till the ballots are counted. I'm not saying I'm going to influence this election, but I'm going to hope that when we get to the 5th one, we can say, hey, that's cool. Unless you really want to run, we've got our 5 and we're done. Okay, I'll call you in a second. Now, if we have more than 5, we will be voting. So I'm going to ask for nominations from the floor for our nominating committee for the year 2019. Now, I know I'm looking at you, but you're directors.
We can nominate from there, right?
Yes, you can. I'm trying to see if I can get numbers to participate. So I'll start with Dana, then we'll go to Dave, and did you want to? And Ann, and Cheryl, and Kathy, in that order.
I nominate Kevin McCord.
Who?
Kevin McCord.
K-E-V-I-N.
M-C-C-O-R-T.
M-C-C-C-O-R-T. Where's Kevin? Do you accept?
Yes.
Why? No, I'm just kidding. What we have, Dave next?
Nominate Tracy Stoley. Tracy with I and then S-T-O-L-L-E.
I'll bring to that. No. Where's Tracy? And do you accept? Perfect. Who was next? I think Ann.
Mary Reddick.
Mary, R-E-T-I-G. And I hope everyone knows they can't run if they're on the nominating committee. Mary, where are you?
Over here.
Oh, accept?
Sure.
Okay. Number 4, Cheryl.
I nominate Cheryl Carrick.
Spell?
K-A-R-R-I-C-K. I don't know how to spell Cheryl.
Okay.
You could spell the
Cheryl?
pickle.
Cheryl.
I believe I worked with you last year on this, or this year.
Cheryl, do you accept?
I accept your rose.
Thank you. Accept the responsibility. And last, Kathy.
If there's no fifth, I'll throw my name in.
You throwing your name in? K-T-H-Y-P-H-I-L-L-I-P-S. Can I ask you an important question? You were nominated by Kathy. Does Kathy accept? That's pretty cool. Yeah. Okay, thank you. We have 5. If you want to vote, we can continue. If not, we can ask close nominations. That's up to you. Either one. I'm not.
Close nominations.
I have a motion to close nominations.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no?
No.
Motion carries. We have our 5. Thank you.
All right.
Anything else? We have announcements, drawings, adjourn. I just ask you, for those that haven't seen me before, ask your children or grandchildren at home, make a circle like this with your thumb and first finger. And then ask everybody if you can poke your head through this hole. When they say no, go like this. All right, everyone.
Meeting adjourned.